All right, thank you so much for your work on Essay 1. You want to make sure that you're looking at the formatting guidelines that are posted on Moodle, as well as the how-to videos on this YouTube channel to make sure that your essay is formatted correctly or you're going to lose some points. So what I would say is cut out this S according to Ashley Crossman and start with Irving Goffman, and then the way that you would give Crossman credit is here. But because we're reading Crossman's summary of Gossman, we add the words as cited in. So before Crossman here, you're just going to add as cited in to make that work. Because remember that when you are doing APA citation for paraphrases like this, you need the year and the page number, either in parentheses or at the end of the sentence, either as part of the sentence or in parentheses at the end, but not both. So like here you have Nikki Lisa Cole, and then you say Cole 2019, but you can just cross that out and just say Nikki Lisa Cole, parentheses 2019, a sociologist, blah, blah, blah. And that works as well. But if you have it in both places, it's technically considered wrong, which is a little silly, but them's the rules. So English and Turkish uses semicolons differently, so I apologize, but basically you have a complete sentence here and a complete sentence here, and so to join them, a comma in English isn't strong enough, so you need to use a semicolon to join these two complete sentences. And then instead of saying their behaviors are changed, you can just say their behaviors change and they act in a proper way. That way you're avoiding passive voice there. Rather than friends, say colleagues, because friends is informal, colleagues is formal. Nice work here. And then rather being in a university, when we're talking about somebody who works there, we would say at a university. And then, yeah, you would say Sarah Forrester Heisner, blah, 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 and her colleagues emphasize. So because this is multiple authors, you want to make sure that just like you did up here, that you're highlighting colleagues again. So we want to add colleagues over here again. Or you can say like co-workers or co-researchers. And then again, because we have a complete sentence before the comma and a complete sentence after, we need a semicolon instead of a comma here, and then a comma after otherwise, so otherwise pause. Students might obtain. And then rather than unexpected outcomes, because we are technically predicting the outcomes, I think maybe undesirable, like outcomes that we don't want rather than outcomes we don't expect, I think would be more accurate terminology. And I don't think you need both here. Feedback is non-count, so you want to make sure that you get rid of that S. Sorry, I'll highlight it so it's a little easier to see. It is related to an increase. I think this is a big claim. I think it can work, but you need to unpack it a lot more. And so like if this is something, I feel like you don't necessarily address it more in the essay, so you might get rid of it, or you can expand it and make it like its whole own thing if you would like. That's kind of up to you. I think either is fine. So it's kind of how you want to handle it. And then instead of saying I interpret, you can say I conclude or I assert. Because interpret is really like what you do with like data. And so you wouldn't interpret demonstrative engagement, you would conclude. And then make sure that at the end of your body paragraphs, you're linking them back to your thesis. So therefore, students should use them. You want to take a look at your claims and paragraph structure through here. I kind of feel like it gets a little complicated. You might need to break this into smaller pieces or make sure that your claim aligns with all the ideas in your paragraph. There are a couple of different ways that we can handle it. So let me know if you have questions about how to address this. We can either look at it and reorganize it during your tutorial, or you can try on your own. It's kind of up to you. You want to make sure that you have the period for et al in the right place. So it would be a Kizar et al period comma rather than et period al comma. And then rather than leaving a competitive impression where you're trying to be number one, I wasn't sure if you meant competent, but like trying to like, again, but because you also have competent earlier in the sentence, you might say like a positive or a good or a strong impression. Or maybe you do mean competitive, and then that's fine, in which case ignore that comment. And then you can get rid of the I can state and say thus not showing without losing any meaning. Students influence their teachers to get their attention. Can you give an example here of what that might look like in the classroom? I'm not saying I disagree. I do agree, but you want to make sure that you're making it clear for your reader what that would look like in practice. And again, right here, again, adding a classroom example of what like intimidation might look like in an academic setting. Because I think you have a really good definition, but to make it really clear how it connects to your argument, adding an example I think will make it more clear, and also make sure you fix all these et als. Therefore, link back to the thesis. Ungenuineness isn't a word, it's disingenuous, because English is crazy. So rather than saying ungenuousness, you would say disingenuous. And then you kind of talk about how teachers should know about them. I'm curious if, I mean, I think it's fine if you don't want to talk about the student perspective, but you might also add that, that like, how does it benefit students to be aware of these things and how does that impact your grade? Thank you for your work on creating these reference list entries. They're not totally right. You want to use the reference list that I provide on Moodle, and make sure that it's formatted correctly according to the guidelines. If you have questions about that or want to run by your changes, or you want to run your changes by me, we could also look at it during the tutorial if you would prefer. Yeah, I hope this feedback was helpful, and I look forward to reading the final version of your essay. Thank you.